A very good evening to all our membership traders. We are today on the 2nd of April 2021. It's a Friday evening, 9 p.m. Indian Standard Time. Like always, our usual mentorship invest session where we talk about the markets. It was a truncated week with 2 days markets being closed on Monday and Friday, but it was quite an eventful week with just 3 days of trade. So let's talk about the index first. I have the Nifty daily chart over here. Well, the weekly charts had gone through its share of short-term correction, and now it's trying to kind of give us some bounce back. But more clarity comes once we start to roll down to smaller time frames. Now, we had a channel breakdown mid-March, which led to a follow-through movement, and we did see a break of 14,500 down to 14,250 onwards. This seemed like a trap. We discussed this in our, I think, Wednesday's morning session. I was talking about how this can lead to a trap, and it seems so. It is very much a trap. And just 3 days of trade this week, and we have a trend reversal. We have a short-term trend reversal, which you can clearly see from the 75-minute time frame. I'm considering the 75 as the short-term trend. Let me show you on this part of the charts. This is a 75-minute chart of Nifty futures, wherein we can clearly see that the index has taken out that 14,900 mark. We've been talking about it so much over the last week. This channel breakdown is what we saw on the daily charts, and now it's very likely that we can see a retest of this zone, the channel border on the downside. 15,000, 15,100 is the level to keep a close watch at for the Nifty futures. The short-term trend, which has now again turned positive if you look at the moving averages or the RSI 9 that I'm using down here, has moved into the green zone. Now this short-term trend has been fairly volatile over the last month or so. It's only been once that we've seen follow through selling, but on the upside, every time it moved into an uptrend, it followed through some degree of correction. So it's the short-term trend which worries us a little bit, and that is why if you look at the index at 14,900 at the current levels, essentially 14,900 was first met only was met on the early Feb. So the entire month of Feb and the entire month of March has gone in just oscillating, gains, correct, bounce back, and correct. And essentially in 2 months, the index has not gained any grounds at all, or even lost any grounds at all. So the index has created some kind of a range for itself. Within the range, it is fairly volatile. The short-term range has been fairly volatile, and we've seen reversals of that. This may stay. This may continue. We don't know how far this will continue. We don't know whether it will shoot up to the new life highs from here on or not. But what we can anticipate is 15,100 is the likely short-term resistances that the index will definitely face. This is where, if you've gone long in this bounce back, where you should look to lighten up your position. The Bank Nifty has managed similar kind of a bounce back, not as good as the benchmark Nifty. Now, the 75-minute chart of Bank Nifty, which is this one, if you can see, I'd like to bring your attention. We've got a short-term channel breakout on the upside, this one. Okay, and if you look at 34,300, 400 level, this is where once, twice, thrice, almost 3-4 times the index had faced beautiful resistances. Pattern traders would definitely be extremely delighted and excited to see this head and shoulder bottom. The left shoulder, the head and right shoulder, this actually looks so beautiful. And we've got a breakout. So they might all get really interested to bet on the upside. Looking at the charts of stocks like State Bank of India and ICICI Bank, Axis Bank, of course, it's possible. But I have a different kind of levels which I'll be looking at for the week ahead. First, the 34,700, 35,000 kind of levels, these lows do have certain degree of higher volumes happening in this sell-off. So 34,700 all the way up till 35,000, 35,400. This is the big wide range where I think Bank Nifty will go and find itself some resistance. It's cautiously bullish for both Nifty and the Bank Nifty. The headrooms, the size of the headrooms for here on, we cannot gauge right now. The Bank Nifty looks relatively weaker because it's still in a downtrend. It's a bounce back from the downtrend. Nifty is relatively far better off because it got the support of sectors like metals. Talking about sectors, so before I go to the sectors, I think I can sum it up the Nifty Bank Nifty view by saying cautiously bullish. Bank Nifty, if this breakout, if this head and shoulder plays out, then we can definitely see a decent move from the index. Whether it will come or not, I think the first half of next week will definitely show us those cues. Now, taking a look at the sectoral behavior this week, this I'm using the RRG charts on the stockcharts.com website. Now, sorting the percentage change, it's been positive for all the sectors. Metals, of course, the one that led right from the very beginning of the bounce back, followed by PSU Bank. I was mentioning about State Bank of India, and on the other hand, the ones that gained the least, as I was just telling you, Bank Nifty's and the banking few of the banking stocks, especially when I talk about finance and banking, it is the HDFC and HDFC Bank. This duo has been underperforming, and if finance banking fails to perform, if that head and shoulder fails, and if we see sell off or further downside from few of these stocks, the downsides may be led by this HDFC and HDFC Bank duo. So we'll keep a close watch on that. Apart from that, most of the sectors were positive. Let's look at a 3-month kind of a perspective from all the sectors. So I've got 12 weeks here, sorting them in terms of the tail. We've got the PSU Bank still in a nice leading quadrant. Metals, of course, big comeback. After it lost the relative momentum, now it has picked up both momentum and strength. Small and mid caps continue to perform in this market. And a bit of public sector and enterprises stocks. FMCG, back to the, I'll try and fit this, yes. FMCG has found itself back to the improving quadrant thanks to Hindustan Unilever and ITC. Consumption has not managed to, in fact, consumption is still weak. And we have energy. Now, talking about energy, this particular sector and this movement, I would definitely want to discuss further today. Based on this RRG behavior, it is in the improving quadrant. And if I can see the movement of this graph, it's gaining both in terms of relative strength and it is gaining both in terms of momentum of the relative strength. Ideally, the flow should be like this, which means that it should gain relative strength. That is, if the markets go up, it should go up more, it should lead. If that is the case, and we should be taking a look at that space. And why I'm doing this today is because I'm more interested to keep a very close watch on Reliance Industries. Now, this is the chart of Reliance Industries. On my left-hand side, I have the daily chart. On my right-hand side, this is the shorter 75-minute chart. What I'm going to do is I'm going to change my left-hand side chart to weekly and my right-hand side chart to daily. This will give us a slightly larger perspective of what I'm trying to explain or what I see on the charts. Now, first the daily charts, if I take a look here, we can clearly see this. Okay, and if you extend this further, this was previously a bit of resistance also. And this level does have certain degree of importance. And this is the psychological 2K mark. We've got an inside bar today and it's been bouncing off pretty well. If this has to play out, we should get a breakout. If the energy behaves and if it finds more relative strength and momentum, this guy needs to break out, and for that the bare minimum move is 2060, above which we'll get a breakout. Again, the pattern traders might find a left shoulder, a head, a right shoulder. Well, this looks like a beautiful head and shoulder, but I will not buy this because there is no significant uptrend, and the market is fairly, or the stock in this case is fairly range bound. This range bound behavior of Reliance we can clearly see from this chart, which is the weekly. It's been holding the 1334 EMAs pretty well. The 34 is still rolling up. We've got an inside bar on the weekly also. So looking at this particular stock, which is an index heavyweight, and we see improvement from the CNX Energy, this stock is definitely one you should keep a watch. You can put an alert at 2060. Apart from this, on Thursday session, we saw a good movement coming in from GAIL. It was like a V recovery, like a bounce back. Similar movement coming in IGL. Now, oil marketing companies, I did talk a lot at length about HPCL in our Wednesday talk. So BPCL, IOC, and Hinpetrol. So HPCL was the one that played out really well. And finally, we have Petronet, which is in a strong downtrend. So I will not entertain this stock too much. But if some surprise comes, if the Nifty takes out 15K, goes towards 15,100, metals are a little stretched, banks are performing, but it's a mixed space, so some support needs to come from somewhere. Considering this in mind, considering this movement, the possibility of Reliance to do something for the index on the upside is very probabilistic. I'm not saying that it will definitely happen, but if that movement comes, Reliance should be the one to participate. It's fairly ripe for that kind of a move. If it doesn't, then the stock anyways has been underperforming for some time, and it will continue to do so. 2K definitely is a very important psychological level. All right, let's quickly sum it up then. Cautiously bullish for the overall markets. Nifty will try its best to test the 15,100 mark. That's where these short-term traders, long traders should look to lighten up. Banks are mixed. HDFC Bank, you should be a little careful above. On the upside, iBank, Axis Bank, and SBI are the ones that can perform. And Reliance will be an important stock to keep a close watch in the next week. All right, that's my take on the markets. Now, as always, let's continue further and talk about the stocks which we filtered last week for adding in our long-term portfolio, and which are the picks which have come up on our radar at the end of this week.